much button. You are now on the air.
We'll now call this meeting of PAC to order. Roll call. Additions, deletions, and/or approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, just before you do that, just on roll call, I've been asked by Maxine Mann to express her regrets that she's at an appointment in Halifax and is not going to make it tonight. If she does, she said she'd come in when she gets home, if we're still in session. And we had a message from Danielle, Councillor Fraser, that she was going to be unable to make it tonight as well. I just want to pass that on.
Thank you. All right, additions, deletions, and/or approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion is moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Declarations of conflict of interest. Hearing none. Approval of the minutes from October 15th, 2025.
I'll move to approve the minutes from October 15th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Motion's moved and seconded. All in favor?
All right?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Planning and Development Report. Mr. Day.
Ooh, it works.
Oh, there you go.
So everyone's had this, well, since Sunday evening when I sent it out. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read it. Let me just pull it up on my screen here as well. You'll see that we had quite a few permits closed during this last period, if you go down to that section. But that's not the entirety of the story. There is also a little project that we had running in the background where we had an extra inspector seeking to attack some of these permits that have just been on this list for a very long time. And we just got the report of ones that they have closed from 2023 and 2024, but they have not been included in this yet. So that'll be updated for the next time you see this. And they grabbed quite a few, but there were still some lingering ones that are still underway in one fashion or another. And I don't know that we need to distribute that. It will be on the next report that will show those ones. And hopefully we'll have quite a few more closed for 2025 by the time we get there as well. So we've kind of raised this with the main inspector, indicating that it's very helpful, particularly at this time of the year, to get permits wrapped up wherever possible.
Mr. Chair, through you to Sean, do we have a number on where we are as far as bills this calendar year?
It's something that I will have to get for Mr. Weirs in any event, so the next time we talk, or once I get it to him, we'll get it to you guys as well. Yeah.
Always interested to compare year to year.
Yeah, just on that, Your Honor, I think that I'm hopeful that we will be in the very close to 40 range. So it was 20 last year.
Be double.
It should
We
be,
expect.
if all goes well. I'm waiting for Shaw, for example, to apply for building permits for the 10 out there. But assuming that happens before the end of the calendar year, we should be very close to the 40 mark, I would think.
Excellent.
Yeah, which is probably hasn't happened in Westville since 1889.
Since the boom, since the great boom. Yeah.
Moving on, so I just highlighted just a few things on this, and again, I'm assuming that if there are any questions about the report that they'll come forward this evening. Still working on a potential project on North Main. I can't really go into the details on it, but staff is working both with the developer and some landowners to see if we can make something happen there that I think would be pretty exciting for the downtown. It's an area that's going to see quite a bit of development over the next while. And we're just, waiting to see the first of its start at this point. There's also on it, I've mentioned here the triplex on Acadia Avenue. So I did get a survey showing, and this is about where electrical poles and an easement was put in the way of a development that we had anticipated happening on a lot that the town sold to a developer to cause this to happen. And so I've actually reached out to the two partners involved in this development to see if we can meet and go through what we found out from the survey that was done showing the pole locations, because to my eye at least, it looks as though we have a project there. They will have to agree to, at their cost, move the poles, but I think they'll be willing to do that. And we also have to get Nova Scotia Power to agree that these will be adequate clearances. Based on what I see, it should meet their requirements. So fingers crossed that that happens. It's a great opportunity for that lot.
Yeah, just on that, just for those on council who haven't been as close to some of it as some of the rest of you, you know, the fact that the pole is where the pole is has made it impossible for the developer to put in a 3-unit development that was going to be worth north of $1 million and would generate north of $30,000 a year for the town. So having that pole in precisely the wrong spot is, you know, costly and painful for Westville. So, I mean, you know, I think Nova Scotia Power has been as accommodating as they can be, I think. You know, Mr. Day, working with the surveyor, I think has found a solution. So we're hopeful that it'll all work out. There's some potential challenges yet, but we'll work through those as they arise, and I'm hopeful that we're, you know, able to get there in the not too distant future.
So just on that, this was kind of a catalyst for us to reach out to Nova Scotia Power and meet with them, as you know. And I think that, you know, even if nothing else were to arise from this, I think that that's still a very positive thing, that we have that connection. We know who to talk to. We know how important it is to get out ahead of projects and make sure they're aware of them so we can understand if there's going to be some challenges around power. Another one that we mentioned to Nova Scotia Power during that meeting was the art gallery, and the fact that they haven't been able to repair the dormers on the front because of how close those poles are. And the fee, and it's kind of mind-boggling, the fee for having Nova Scotia Power make it safe for them to work was $25,000.
It's crazy. And that's just basically to throw the blankets on over it. And that's all it is. It's $25,000.
So they agreed that they would go back and take a look at their requirements and see if there was anything that they could do to bring that cost down. And I received an email about a week ago now saying that they feel they will be able to substantially reduce that price, which is great. On the other hand, they don't think they can do it as quickly as, you know, we would all like to see it happen. So it's, at least it's a step in the right direction. They're a big machine. It's not going to change overnight for sure.
And I think also, Sean, I think that, you know, as much as we learned from them at that meeting, you know, going forward, steps that we can take to perhaps avoid this situation was that I think they learned something from us as well, from you in particular, and from, you know, the fact that these decisions, how it impacts the possibility of us building more stock in town and increasing our revenue. You know, I don't think they understood the significance of that.
It's certainly easy when you're doing your work to be siloed. So,
Right.
you know, if you're out there scoping out a project, well, here's what's going to be easy.
Right.
And you're not going to be inclined to, and this is, you know, runs across the board, I think, through most jobs, that you're not going to be inclined to think of anyone else's needs at that point, or it's not going to be topmost on your mind.
Yeah.
So I won't go on to the back burner part, but it's there, so people can see what is, well, one of them seems to have moved up a little bit, but it's still not something we can talk about. Projects that I think have some chance of happening, but right now are quiet.
You know how I put it to someone recently was that they were asking me about developments that were happening in town, and my way of looking at it is that it's like looking at an iceberg. What you see on the above the water is what's happening right now, but the potential and the other things that are in the mix on the back burner, as you call it, is under the water right now. It just can't be seen right yet, but it's there, ready to rise to the surface, hopefully. And there's a lot.
I was thinking it's kind of like a turkey dinner. You know, there's a whole day of prep that goes
Right.
into it, and all of a sudden it shows up.
And it takes you 15 minutes to eat it
That too.
and an hour to clean up.
And then a whole day to recover.
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned this before. We do have an application for someone who wants to do some flag lot development. And we'll see this in a little while. It's interesting that our own secondary planning strategy, which you've all had copies sent out to you, talks about flag lots for all the residential zones, but the only one that the bylaw currently provides it for is for rural residential. So that's a kind of a mismatch between objective and policy in that document, and it's one of the ones that hopefully we'll be able to address as part of the work we're doing currently. We'll be talking a little bit about the major plan amendment shortly. And actually, in the general inquiries section, GE 25-1031, there was a surveyor asking about the option to create a flag lot to enable access to quite a substantial rear lot in the core of the town, in the serviced area of the town. And because of the zone it's in, with the policies we currently have, I'm not able to do anything, but I did say that I anticipate that going forward we'll have that ability, although I can't promise it, obviously. And it does sort of highlight how many parcels of land we have in the core that don't have access to them. And, you know, perhaps not in this first round of amendments that we're working on right now, where we can address flag lots. Maybe the next round we'll also look at landlocked lots and using easements. Because there's more nuances in that I think we'll have to take some time to look at. But again, it does open up the door to a whole huge amount of land in the downtown area around us being available for development that currently is blocked. And I think that that's all I wanted to draw attention to. If there were any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
My only comment is, there's a lot. There's a lot in that report. A lot of activity.
All right.
All right. Who wants to look at for number 7?
What's number 7?
Number 7 is the DHF related policy and bylaw.
Okay, so let me start that. So you'll all recall that we got awarded a Housing Accelerator Fund award, 1 point, whatever it was, 6 mil over 4 or 5 years. So we're kind of about halfway through that process now. To get that, we had to articulate a number of initiatives, and I'm probably going to get them not quite right, but public transit, water, compact homes, pocket neighborhoods, and there's one more that escapes me right at the moment, but anyway, so a number of initiatives. The initiatives around compact homes and pocket neighborhoods the intent was to build on the policy the council approved on tiny homes or compact homes and pocket neighborhoods. And it's an easy thing to say and a challenge to do because of the complexities of Westville's planning strategy and land use bylaws. And Mr. Day, since probably the day he started here, has been telling me, I don't get those planning documents. They don't make sense to me. They seem to be all confused. And so we're in the process of trying to sort that out and add to it. And so the thick document that I left with you today is kind of jumping to the next item on the agenda, but it all hangs together. So I'm going to talk about it in as one thing. is an attempt to take the current strategy from the current strategy that we have and add to it, take out all the things that don't relate to Westville. So you remember that it was a planning strategy that worked for all the towns, right? And we long ago decided that that wasn't working for us. And so what Sean has done is gone through and taken all out of the planning strategy, all the stuff that related to all the other towns. Then added into that document our secondary plan strategy that had been approved, that does relate just to Westville and does make sense for the Westville context by and large, and create the 76 or 80 pages that you have in front of you. That work is not done, so what you've got in front of you is very much a draft document that needs work, but it is kind of there. It's now focuses on Westville. It's all about the planning strategy. It provides the kind of view from 55,000 feet as to what Westville will do for development going forward. What it doesn't do is give you land use bylaws yet. Those will come later. And part of the reason why Mr. Day and I were always so confused about the Westville planning documents was because they were in fact both strategy and land use bylaw at once. And so it was impossible to kind of sort out what should happen and what shouldn't. So in a strategy, you should be saying, what do we intend to do? Why do we intend to do it? Not, and by the way, the house should be 20 feet back from the road.
Yeah.
And it was both, and it was just a crazy mess. So what you have in front of you, that 80-ish page document, is the first attempt to create the view from 50,000 feet. And then what we will do is go to the land use bylaws and create the 5,000 foot, how do you make this happen document. So it is a kind of a multi-step process. Now I'm going to switch back to talking about number 7, which is the HAF thing. So part of what is driving me and therefore coming before you is the HAF requirement to deliver changes that would allow compact homes and pocket neighborhoods in Westville. And so, you know, CMHC has kind of read me the Riot Act and said, get on with it, bucko, you're taking too long. And so that's what we're trying to do, is get to a place where we've got the 50,000 foot strategy in place towards the end of the year. And what I would, you know, so we want to talk about that today. And what I would like to have come out of Monday's council meeting potentially is a bit of a resolution from council saying, in principle, we're on board with this approach, get on with it, sort of thing. And so that's where, that's why we're talking about all this stuff as one kind of complete mess, because what we're trying to do is take a document that really didn't make any sense, pull it apart, and put its constituent parts together. The strategy over here, the land use bylaws over here, and at the same time, fix some of the really goofy things that exist in the current strategy bylaw or bylaw document. For example, the, you know, no wall shall be under 20 feet in width. and you can't put a mini home, you know, prohibitions
in a
against mini
park.
homes
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
all the sorts of things that,
Yeah.
you know, arguably possibly may have made sense in 2014. Not that I can really believe that, but, you know, I suppose one could argue that at a point, you know, a decade ago, it made sense not to recognize that modular homes were going to be the thing that every government in the country was going to be encouraging people to do.
Yeah.
And right now, we can't get there because we can't say yes to modular homes because our land use bylaws and our strategy says, no, you can't do
Right.
modular homes, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to sort those things out, you know, kind of while we're flying the plane at the same time, right? We're swapping the engines out as we're flying the plane to some degree. And so that's why a push to try and sort out the compact home or tiny home thing, pocket neighborhoods, and those sorts of things, all to try and get to a place where we've got a 21st century planning document that actually reads the way it should be. The strategy over here, at 50,000 feet, and the bylaws over here, which are the kind of tools by which you execute against your strategy. And we need to do that at double speed. How much did I miss, Sean?
There's a couple things, but
Good.
I'll
So
speak
you
to them
fill
when
it
we,
in.
yeah. So because of the timeline that we're working under right now, this is not going to be as fully fledged of a set of amendments as I had initially thought it might be, which is fine. It at least gives us our own document to work with, so, you know, we're not having to see if we can get others to jump on the same bandwagons. And it will allow us to test some things in a minor way, and it's also going to give us a chance to get a document or a set of documents that is easier to work with. And so it may take, you know, the next year to make some more of the changes that we would like to see happen with public outreach and discussion, you know, with some arm wrestling about how to get to different places. This at least gives us something that people will be able to read and find a bit more comprehensible. Not quite yet, it's getting closer, but we're working on connecting the goals and objectives with proper preamble for all the policies. We're not going to get all that done. We're going to be focusing primarily on the residential aspects, mostly to do with the half funding as opposed to all of the residential changes that we may want to make over the course of time. And I mentioned some of them at our last meeting. So that's kind of where we're going. Some of the other things that have been included, and I'm going to show you what this looks like in a second if we can get the TV to work.
Movies.
What I've been finding is that the intermunicipal planning strategy and the secondary planning strategy, one being for all the towns and one being just for us, they are very different documents, both in the way that they're written and also sometimes they're in conflict with one another, which is making it a little bit more challenging to blend them together. We said that we wanted certain things and then write a policy that says we're going to do something else entirely different, for instance. We have, over the last little while, there have been a number of changes to the Municipal Government Act. And so because we're adopting a document that is enabled under the Municipal Government Act, we're also going to be addressing those, at least to the extent that we have to. One of those things is a set of minimum standards for planning now, or minimum planning requirements. I'm not really worried about us hitting those targets, but we are going to make it clear that we are hitting them and have that enunciated in the document. If you imagine in your mind going down Campbell's Road, you'll have noticed that there's wetlands on either side of you. And there are other places in town as well that there are wetlands, and they're not insubstantial. You would never know that from our planning documents. Nowhere in any of our mapping or any policies or bylaws does it say that we have any kind of wet areas. we need to address that. That's a requirement that we have to actually attend to. So we're going to start going down that path. We'll have some wetland mapping, and we'll have some basic policies around that. Another one that under the statements of provincial interest that we're required to speak to is agriculture. And you may think, well, we're a town, why do we have to do that? As it turns out, we have some Class 3 land in the Canada Land Inventory. And so because we have that, we actually do have to address that. And it kind of, when you realize that, it starts to get you thinking, well, what could we do with that? Like, you know, maybe we should actually be leveraging those lands as opposed to being bothered by them. So I think that's going to make for some interesting conversations around the table. There's a pretty good chance that we've built on a lot of it. Right now I'm working on getting some mapping that I can introduce into our GIS so that we can see where they are relative to property lines and zones. And also trying to track down some mapping, at least to the extent that it's available for wetlands. And so that's something where we'll identify it to the ability allowed by aerial photography and that sort of thing. But when it comes down to someone doing development, we're going to have to get them to map it on the land so that they'll have an accurate accounting of where it is and where it's not. What else do we have? I already talked about flag lots. I think those were the things that I wanted to bring up. And now I want to show you, and Councillor McGregor brought this up at our last meeting, wanting to make sure that it was clear what we're messing with. Maybe that's the wrong term, but it was something along those lines. So when I pull this up, you'll see how I've structured this so that it will be hopefully fairly obvious what we're messing with. That is not the one I want. Hang on tight for a sec. Okay. And if I can close, come on, let me use my mouse. There we go. Actually, I'm going to want that back. So in this document, as you look at it, you'll see some colors that are different. Although it's not clear on that screen as much as I'd like it to be.
You can tell orange, red, and blue.
Yeah, so this area where my mouse is now on that screen kind of appears to be blue, but it's actually black, in my document at least. Anything that is in black is actually in the intermunicipal planning strategy and is generally unchanged. Down here, you're seeing some kind of a rusty red color. Anything that you see introduced into this document that is in that color comes directly out of our secondary planning strategy. So that way, as you're going through this, when we give it to you in a digital copy, I know you can't see it in these prints, but when you're looking at it in digital copy, you'll be able to see, okay, this is in our planning strategy, our intermunicipal one, this is in our secondary one, so you'll be able to go to those original documents if you're curious about, you know, what they said and if there's been any change. And then down below here, you can see that that's kind of a blue color. So that has been introduced by us, the planner that I'm working with and myself. And we're going to get Mr. Weirs to also write in blue when he starts spending some time in the document. So it will be clear what is new. We'll also be drawing attention, you know, through a report itemizing, generally speaking, those things that we have changed
So
and why we've done it.
Can I just ask a quick question? So in the beginning, I just was looking at this very quickly, but I mean, for the first 18, 19 pages or so, to me, it was the existing strategy because it referenced all the other towns and Pictou County and so on.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we want to make sure that there's a clear link to what we're riffing off of here. So we're not going to pretend that we didn't go through this process since 2016 of working together. So there will be reference, but actually if you look at this, and again, I'm sorry you can't see it, but this is right at the beginning where I am now. It's all of this is out of the SPS, all of this part,
Yes.
not the IPS. And then you get down to this area and you've got a mix. So this first bit is IPS, this bit is SPS, this next bit is new. Back to secondary planning strategy. That's all of this is secondary planning strategy, that whole section. So your document, it will be very hard for you to see the different colors, but these are directly out of those documents unless they're blue. And you'll notice as you're reading it that, and this is going to take some time, maybe more time than we have, that to get these to really flow properly is going to be a fair bit of work. We'll do our best. There will be some rough spots.
So, just a quick question, I guess, through chair to you, Sean. Kind of what I was alluding to last meeting as well, that it's kind of what I was talking about, but like, is there a format that you could present to us that shows like a summary of the overall changes, or like, you know, if you're gonna add something, what was there, what is proposed new with some rationale? Like, it's just really hard to kind of like 10 of us to have to go on a treasure hunt through the document to kind of see what the changes are, like, because there's a lot, and I think most of them are great, don't get me wrong, but like, if we're going to try to push the whole thing through, I think it needs to be presented in a different manner to all of us, other than, and maybe you're working on it,
Absolutely.
I don't know,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's my concern, like, if we were to tonight just take this and go through like we are, I wouldn't be in a position to move this to Monday, in my mind, right?
So just to be clear, we're not seeking a motion that would suggest that you're adopting this, but rather that this process where we're combining the SPS and the IPS together, stripping out things that don't relate to us, injecting provisions around compact housing and,
Like a long time.
We did approve complex mini.
so.
No, not the compact, I thought in principle we approved moving to this like,
What you did was to say, we want to move
to our own.
to our own.
Right, okay, yeah.
Right?
And this is
So
the next
this is
logical-
kind of the next
Yeah.
step.
Next step.
No, I get
That,
it.
yes, you want
This
to.
is the beginning of
so
that process.
here's-
That's the
Here's
clarity
how
I
we
needed.
get there, right?
Right.
Baby steps.
Yeah,
So
that's the clarity,
what's-
yeah.
Was there a third ingredient to coming up with the new strategy for us specifically, adding what you know that we've basically
Yes.
thought about changing, or changed already perhaps by separate,
So that document about compact houses and the pocket neighborhoods
Yes.
that you also saw,
Yes.
it's not a report, it's kind of a working document
Right.
that I wanted you guys to be on board with and understand it. The language in this is actually a little bit different because this is my writing partner introduced some language in here while I was working on this other thing. So
Right.
sometimes we're kind of doing our own thing and then we get together and work it out, decide what to do.
So there's the old strategy,
right,
Yeah.
there's the old secondary plan,
right.
and then
And-
there is the new stuff.
That's what I
that
was- that's what I
Talks
was-
about compact homes,
Neighborhood.
pocket neighborhoods.
All the stuff that we talked about
And
before.
in addition
Yeah.
to the new stuff, to
Yeah,
that new stuff, there's the new stuff that is
Okay.
required by changes that have happened
Yeah.
to the MGA that have never been made to the documents.
Yeah,
So we're making those
yeah,
changes
no, I
as
just
well.
want to be sure of that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that we'll have to deal with is removing the impediments that have been there, that are in the document.
That are
around things like
outdated.
mini homes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the 20-foot walls and, some of
Yeah.
the stupid stuff
Yeah.
that the other towns wanted for
Yeah.
whatever reasons and never really did work for, and I would argue don't work now, but that's a different issue. It's for them to sort out, not us, right?
Right.
So you've decided that what you need to do is have a kind of made in Westville
Yeah,
plan.
for Westville.
Because it's 2025
Yeah.
and you have a different idea of what the town should look like in 2025 than existed in 2014. And so there are three different sets, and that's why there are three different colors, Mr. Mayor. The black is the existing strategy.
Yeah, and we're not picking that up in this printed
Yeah.
document.
Yeah.
And that's right, yes.
Obviously.
Yeah. So when you share this with
We'll
us,
share
we'll
it
be able to see it.
electronically
Yeah.
and you'll be able to
Absolutely.
see it.
That'd
Yeah.
be great. Wonderful.
So
Thank you.
You'll see now, the stats section is updated with new numbers. And then we get into a section talking, and this is new writing in this part, so talking about what's been happening with housing, because we're in a very different situation now than we were
Housing
you know,
crisis, yeah.
10 years ago. And so we've have a discussion about that and, you know, where the pressure's coming from and how we are going to try to respond to it. Back to more stats. I'm just going to quickly roll through this.
You know, some of those, that information that you're showing there indicates that you shouldn't wait 10 years to update your strategy.
Of course. Well, I think we're,
Right.
in theory, supposed
Things
to do it every
change.
5, but no
Right.
one ever manages that because it's
Yeah.
so much work.
There's a lot of work.
Published a new one. Right.
Well, then, shouldn't we be, I mean, 2026 should be, I guess, the next round to come out, but I haven't seen anything from StatsCan asking me to answer any questions, so.
Yeah.
Next year.
One of the things we're trying to do as well, the visions, goals, and objectives were not necessarily very well related. We're going to try to knit them together a bit in this document, but again, it's not the principal focus of this work. And we're also leaning on the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan and the Municipal Climate Change Action Plan. They both saw quite a bit of public discussion, and they were kind of ignored in the old document. And so we're leaning on those a little bit and talking about some of the objectives that come out of those and how we may address those. So, and again, we don't have a lot of time, so we're trying not to go too deep in these things, but some of them really were supportive of where we are now, and so still relevant.
Did I just see holistic approach? I like that.
We'll probably have to take that word out.
Yeah. Probably. Sounds too nice.
Being a little bit more obvious, talking about the statements of interest and how they are something that we really have to pay attention to. They're not a background item. And you'll have noticed that in every meeting I run where we have a development agreement application or something to that effect, I'll speak to the statements of interest and, you know, how this development is in keeping with the intentions of those. This section is basically referring to what we're doing and as it relates to the minimum standards for planning now. So that's just showing that we are hitting those targets. Then you'll see a couple of objectives that sort of stand on their own, and the objectives in the intermunicipal planning strategy seem to be largely about industrial and the highway interchange, and not really about much of anything else, which is a bit curious because we're in a different place right now. And so we still have these. We're not going to have time at this point to get into those, so they'll remain in place, but they're probably going to see a fair bit of conversation when we get around to that next phase. There was also a huge amount of emphasis put on municipal infrastructure. And I've always thought of municipal infrastructure as something that was not an end, but a means to an end. But it's discussed here as though it's the end. And by that I mean the thing that you're trying to do as opposed to the thing that enables you to do the thing that you're trying to do. So if you're trying to create a great community, you have to break that down. What does that mean? Okay, having broken that down, now what do we need to do with respect to infrastructure to get to that place? But the way this was drafted, it was kind of the big focus, and it was right at the very beginning of the policy section, which was interesting. I'm not saying it's not important, it's just it seemed to be the relationship between it and the rest of the document was strange. Let's see. We're being kind of more clear also about making sure people can find, like, where are the objectives, where are the policies, is there a relationship? So again, heritage showed up in the infrastructure section in the existing document, which always struck me as rather strange. So we're pulling that out, not spending a lot of time on it, but putting it in a place where it makes more sense. We've been advised to spend no time messing with wind energy because it's something that the province has come out with a particular direction on, and if we make any changes to it, it will result in kind of a, not a judicial review, but the province municipal affairs will start to really dig in. And so for now, because it's probably unlikely that anyone's going to set up any large turbines within the town, we're just going to leave it the way it is.
I don't think they would have the setback, because when you look at the hunting regulations and firearms, I think that the setback is even greater.
Right.
I think we're okay.
And I think you're probably right, although the town is pretty big, you never know. Here, we're starting to talk about agricultural soils. These are just some objectives around implementation, and they haven't changed. They're all in black. We haven't touched those at this point. A fair bit of language around infrastructure here, and then you're starting to get into the policies. Now, here you can see that here's a bunch of policies that come from the SPS. And this is a document that I think a lot of people in the town weren't even aware existed for the last while. And it you know, when I was reading the IPS, it's like I kept seeing this reference to the SPS. It's like, well, I've never seen that document. I actually had to get it from a planner in one of the other towns to get the Westville SPS. I think it's going to be interesting as you all have time to spend a little bit of time on this to kind of see what all the different policies we have. One of the ones that I brought up with Mr. Weirs today was we have a policy that says, you know, we want, you know, all this development to happen, but we're not going to even consider private roads. I thought, why not? If it's a private road, it allows the development to happen, and it's not at our expense if we don't have to maintain it. Are we sure we don't want to consider private roads? So that'll be one of the ones that I'm going to propose we at least modify to say we will consider private roads, as opposed to we're not going to even, you know.
I didn't know that was there.
There's a lot of language in regard to the water supply that really needs to be adjusted here. I think some of it's just factually completely wrong. And so, you know, as we make those changes, we'll have a spreadsheet or something that says, look, we changed this, we changed this. I don't know that we're going to spell it out in detail, like remove this portion of this sentence and replace it with this one, but we'll make a note that it's been adjusted.
Oh, yeah, no, like big buckets of themes.
Right.
And stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, like the finer minutiae on that.
And here, like,
Same size.
we've got two different numbering styles because some of these policies came from the SPS and the remainder came from the IPS. So we're going to have to go through and kind of make sure we're not duplicating effort or saying conflicting things and then renumber them. So that's tedious work, but it has to be done. There's a section on sewage. This is a new talking about alternative infrastructure. So there's a big push on to use natural systems where you can, for instance, as opposed to always relying on pipes, which is why in many places you're seeing daylighting of streams that have been undergrounded, that have been put through sewer pipes. I think of the one that crosses Drummond. I think we would benefit from daylighting that because the likelihood of that jamming somewhere under that tunnel that goes under Drummond and well into the park is very high. So if we daylight that, like the rest of it is daylighted, why does that one section have to be closed and put underground? Just as an example. Transportation, as we all know, we're hoping to move at some point toward adopting our active transportation plan. So we've got a section in here talking about multimodal transportation because we're already busy doing it. So it stands to reason that it should be mentioned in this document. What else did I want to come up with? Let's see. This may not make the cut. One of the things that our downtown is lacking are what are often referred to as third places. So third places are if you live in a small apartment, for instance, and you don't have a lot of room to socialize. Third places are like coffee shops and things like that, where you actually can have a social life that otherwise isn't available to you. And particularly as we move to a time which is coming quickly where people will be living in smaller places, third places become more important. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that, and also the idea of placemaking. I think I've spoken to it before. It's thinking carefully about how do you make a downtown and areas around the downtown appealing so that people want to be there. no one's coming for the parking lot. They're coming for what the parking lot serves. So, you know, how do the buildings meet the street? What's the fenestration like? Is it safe? Is it comfortable to walk around? Those sorts of things. So we're just introducing that as a theme. And basically the policy would just say something that the council supports further investigation into improving placemaking and that sort of thing, without getting into particular details. There's heritage showing up in relation to that because that's also part of social infrastructure. We have already in these documents several sections that talk about environmental related things, but they're scattered all over the place. And so we're bundling them together, and right now we're using the term environmental management. It's perhaps not the best section heading. So talking about stormwater, you've heard me talk about that a lot. We already have policies on it, E2 and E3. Talking about environmental constraints, this is where we will introduce discussion about wetlands and wetland protection. Wetlands act as giant sponges when you have intense rain events. And so they moderate flow and they filter all the debris that you get when you have these big rain events. And I'm pretty sure everyone is aware that we are not getting long days of drizzle anymore. We're getting, you know, hugely intense storms now. And so wetlands are going to become increasingly important, not just for Westville, but for all the towns that are downstream from Westville. There's a section that's kind of about general provisions like accessory structures and stuff. A lot of that for the time being will stay the same. There's more of it than there needs to be. It goes into more detail, much like Mr. Weirs was talking about. It turns into regulation in some places. I've mentioned this before, and I don't know that I'll have time to deal with it, but we have a whole chunk of regulation around swimming pools in the land use bylaw, and then we also have a swimming pool bylaw. And it's like 2.5 pages of stuff that someone has to do if they want to put in a kiddie pool. And they are not happy with me when I send them all this information. So we're going to try to just have a swimming pool bylaw. And whatever, you know, needs to go in there from the LUB, we'll pull it out and we'll stick it in there and we'll have one bylaw. And I can just pass them that. It's going to be great.
Is there anything in the town, like, for an actual outdoor swimming pool? Like, I'm sure they had to make some adjustments to have a swimming pool outside in Trenton to their old bylaws and their old rules. Anything?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you. I don't know it's something that you've been talking about or not, but if it is something that's being discussed, we should definitely think about. Yeah. It would probably go in the recreation or active living section. We don't have an active living section, but hopefully one day we will. So yeah, I mean, if it's something that's come up a lot as you were campaigning, people looking for that.
Pools, skate parks. They
Skate
want all the
parks,
things.
pump track. We need a pump track. It's just dirt and bumps.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Awesome fun though.
Remember you talking about that.
Okay, that's that. Here's some discussion on flag lots. This is the one that I was telling you about, the policy. This is an existing policy. I haven't touched this. Infill housing may be encouraged by permitting the creation of, so it's may, it's not a shall. The creation of flag lots in rural residential single unit R1 and residential 2 unit R2 zones. They also have them in commercial business parks, and I'm not sure where that came from. I don't think it's something that started in Westville, but perhaps it did, don't know. Here's a bunch of secondary planning strategy. I'm not going to keep going through this all the way through, but like here's an example of policy that's in our secondary planning strategy. Or after talking about needing to have all kinds of variety in the types of housing, the one residential policy that was in the Westville secondary planning strategy says while garage suites, garden suites, and secondary suites will be permitted as per applicable policy in the intermunicipal planning strategy, mobile homes or mini homes may not be used as such developments.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what I mean by contrary statements to all the preamble. It's like, what?
Yeah, okay.
Innovative housing is where we're going to hang at least some of the pocket neighborhood part. And what you would have seen in that document I sent out is a proposal to allow them by site plan approval in the R2 zones, which also include the C2 zones, up to a certain number of units. And then if you went over that number of units, you would end up in a development agreement under the innovative housing and site design section. So that way, if it's going to get really large, there's going to be more opportunity for neighborhood involvement, but also council's involvement. Site plan approval, by comparison, still allows consultation of the neighborhood, but kind of after the fact. And so the requirement there is that you're pretty clear about what a development officer is going to be looking at in approving one of those site plans if we have one come to us. And we do have someone that's interested in doing one right now. So that's kind of, the timing is very good, that we have someone who has been involved in them before and has some thoughts that will be valuable to us as we work through coming up with the finer details on this.
It's one of those parts of the iceberg under the water that I was referencing earlier,
Right.
by the way.
So here's another example. This is policy. This is a statement of policy, and it says small lot minimum frontage of 34 feet and an area of 3,400 square feet. That should not be in policy. That's purely regulation, and it just shouldn't be in there. Here's a discussion on compact homes, and as you would have seen in that same document, we already largely have the ability to do them now, apart from those requirements like no main walls smaller than 20 feet. And there's some other provisions you would have seen there that you can't bring any module of housing to a site and have that as part of your dwelling. It all has to be stick framed, which if you take that to the illogical extreme means you can't have roof trusses because those are modules.
What if you move a whole house from one property to another property?
Well, it was stick built in the first place.
Not fair
Right.
enough. No, yeah. Well, they're all stick built, just somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, we're trying to tackle some of the strange bits that ended up in these documents. And right now we have lots of small lots, as you all know. Westville is very organic in how it developed over the course of time. And it's got fantastic little odd lots all over the place. And so by making a few changes, we are going to be able to entertain the applications for housing on virtually any of them, which is fantastic. And I think if we do, you will have seen in that a three-pronged approach I talked about in that paper I sent around. I think putting some real information out there to help people understand the opportunities and where they lie is going to be important. We won't get to it before the end of this year, but I think it's something that we're going to need to spend some time on and develop. You know, we can put it out as in a basic format initially, and then as we start to get questions, we can develop an FAQ section, for instance, to help people find out what they need to know in order to get excited about building on these small lots. This, the Comprehensive Development District section is just brought from the document the council approved and interjected into this document, so it's no different from what was already approved and went to the public. Although now that I look at it, I think it's longer than it needed to be, but won't be dealing with that anytime soon. Commercial development, there's a lot of chat in our SPS about that, and this is one of those ones where there's some real contradictions. They talk about how important the downtown is and that it'd be attractive and that it have great uses, and we're going to focus on that. But you know what? We're going to let pretty much anything happen on the highway commercial because we want to see development out there, even if it hurts the downtown. Same thing with neighborhood commercial. They ruminate on whether or not it may hurt the downtown, but allow it anyway, without really saying anything that would stop it from potentially impacting the downtown. Here, this language is interesting. Again, this is in our secondary planning strategy. It's talking about mid-density development in the downtown, and this document is proposing that policy should require that anything that happens in the downtown that has housing should be by development agreement or site plan approval, irrespective of size. Even if it's a small little development, this wants us to go through this big planning process. So I think I'll be proposing that we don't need to do that, that we can pull that back. Again, whether I'll get to it in this round or a future round, I can't say, but it's tagged for attention. I think that was everything that I wanted to pull out. So you guys have a good sense of how we're approaching this now. Mm-hmm. Pretty soon we'll be able to send this one out to you to take a look at. And I know it's a lot to read. Trust me, I know. But I would love your input. It would be, you know, you're all on the ground. You're really familiar with this community, and you'll have a sense of what in here doesn't make sense. And we won't be able to tackle everything you come up with, but maybe you'll find some things that really should be done in the first round of changes, because they're just that important. And I may miss them. So I think that's everything that I wanted to say about that, unless there's some particular questions. It's exciting. It's, you know, we're
Thank you.
building a new future for the town.
Building a new town
Pretty much.
within the existing town. We have the opportunity to do so. Just to be clear then, Mr. Chair, through you to Scott probably, what you're asking for council to be considering on Monday night coming will be to not approve, but to
Except the fact you're amending.
accept,
Endorse the
Endorse.
process.
let's get the right word,
To get it in the right
in our
direction.
resolution,
Yeah.
endorse the process
Correct.
to this point in time.
The one thing I would add to that, Mr. Mayor, is that it would be helpful for me to have guidance on how we want to approach primarily the pocket neighborhoods. So one way would be to say, and this is in this printed document you have, my co-writer was suggesting that if there's no subdivision involved, it could be as of right. So for example, if you have an acre lot and you want to do 15 or 20 tiny homes in a pocket neighborhood, that could be handled as of right. And he suggested that if you go to a subdivision kind of a approach, where you're creating multiple lots where you're going to sell a lot with a tiny home on it, that would be by development agreement. I think that that doesn't, personally, this is where I would like to get your views on this, I feel that that doesn't allow enough oversight. I think that I would rather the site plan approval for ones up to a certain size, and then when you leap over that, go to a development agreement. I think that, given that we haven't done these before, and maybe we'll get to a place where we can allow it by as of right as we come to understand it if we have enough applications. But right now, this gives us some comfort that we have the chance to take a look at these things, and that neighborhoods, if they find there are challenges with them, would have an opportunity to come and have a chat with council, or ultimately, potentially the UARB, but hopefully not. So that's, I think that everyone's on board with the compact home-related changes that we've talked about, taking out things that say you can't bring any modules in, we'll take that out. Anything that basically does regulation from within policy, to strip that out. So if we're good on that, I think we can really forge ahead on the compact homes part of this. But this bit, I do need some guidance for, because I want to update this document before we get it back out to you in a way that reflects what we've just talked about. Did I make sense just now?
I guess, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering what should be the action of planning advisory? I mean, the way that we, our structure that we're set up, planning advisory discusses these matters related to planning and development of town, obviously, by its name. You presented this to us now as a planning advisory committee. So there should be a motion, I'm thinking, from planning advisory to council, to act upon at the next council meeting. If that's the way am I correct in that?
I would think so. I think it's important to hear from you guys in the non-sexist sense of that word, to hear from you about pocket neighborhoods in particular, because that has the potential to be controversial, I would argue. I think, as Mr. Day has said, individual tiny homes are, I think you've already crossed that Rubicon. You've already said, we think that is exactly what needs to happen on tiny lots in Westville. It makes perfect sense. So I don't think there's any debate there. It is when you get to the place of creating pocket neighborhoods that, I think hearing from you will be helpful, and is something I wouldn't want to kind of assume that we understand, because it is a very different type of dwelling structure than we're used to in Westville, right?
Just to be clear on that, the nature of typical, and it's discussed in that paper, and in this, they are, you don't have your own piece of land so much. You live in a community, you have your own small, compact, tiny home, but then you would have communal amenities, like you would have the opportunity to eat together often, or you would have, because your home doesn't have enough room for a stacked washer dryer, there would be perhaps a community laundry facility. There would probably be a central garden gathering spot. Sometimes they'll have a little outdoor fireplace. Parking is not by your house typically, it's off in another area, so that everyone is circulating on foot typically. So it is different from a typical subdivision.
So I think in my mind, perhaps this is helpful, but the development on Acadia Avenue, the 24-unit development on Acadia Avenue, the 6 units of 4 each. I mean, to me, in some ways, it's it's off of Acadia Avenue. It's sort of on its own, away off the avenue, off the street itself. In some respects, I see that as a neighborhood, a pocket neighborhood.
Yeah.
I see that way, but it doesn't fit some of the things that you're mentioning that would exist in a pocket neighborhood.
Right.
Do you know? Is that fair to say?
It's kind of a
I mean, in my
halfway- it's
mind,
halfway there.
I see it as sort of a separate little community there that
It
could
totally
develop
would feel that way.
by the residents living there,
Yeah.
because they're all going to be in that little, area off the street, off the
It's
street,
not
like I said.
developed though with communal space.
Right.
That's one major difference, is that it wasn't developed in that way.
Right, but whereas the school, like the school being redone, and not to bring that up, the Rob joints and all that, but the plan for that with the 64 apartments was also taken into like making it a
Yes.
community as well. So
Yep.
a community garden, a community daycare, a community shops, and
Sure.
possible
Common
banks
room.
and common rooms and all of the things that would make living there and being there easier and more effective, right?
Convenient.
And convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when those ideas came about, those were all done through development agreements. So they wouldn't necessarily, like, I don't know, policy, like if somebody comes to us with this idea, is there something that we can do through a development agreement, or do we have
So-
to add this?
Well, so
I think that's the
this
question.
is taking it up a level in terms of describing, like, we're actually kind of enunciating a different way of living in these pocket neighborhoods.
Right.
where-
Oh, there we go. TG voice is on.
So,
yeah.
in the case of the high school, that was something that they voluntarily brought to us that made perfect sense with regard to
Which
that
we loved.
development.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great.
This is different in the sense
It
that
is.
there would be individual little units scattered around, and I think that they could be, you could have 2 of them stuck together or 3 of them stuck together. Right now, at least, my thought is that this would be a place where we could have the true tiny homes, the ones that are allowed under the Nova Scotia Building Code regulations, which are tiny. Like I think that the maximum floor plate is around 400 square feet.
Right.
And they can have ship ladders. They're a very different kind of living arrangement. And often they'll have a little sleeping loft with very little headroom. What Mr. Weirs was talking about in regard to the compact home thing, those are not tiny homes. Those are compact homes. That's why I want to make that distinction, because they are 2 different
okay.
things.
So the homes that are
And-
coming on Drummond are compact homes. They're not tiny homes.
Well,
They're
those
definitely
are,
not tiny homes.
yeah, those are,
Yeah.
they're not at all tiny. They're
No.
really long.
No.
Those are modular. That's a modular,
Yeah,
qua-
and
those
they're
are
not
each
really
modular
compact
quad.
homes.
They're not even compact homes.
Not,
They're
no,
just
they're not.
homes.
They're homes.
So is the question, I guess, the question is, do we want to allow this to be as of right up to a certain number of units, or do we want to regulate it through?
Site plan approval up
Right.
to a certain number, and then development
Yeah.
agreement after that number.
I don't know what that number is, but I think absolutely that we can't just allow folks to develop these in good faith, and then there has to be some parameters of what these look like, how they're
Absolutely.
regulated, how they're built, whether they need to have, I hate to use the term HOA, it's not really something they use in Canada, but there's gotta be some rules and parameters for folks so that, they're not left fighting amongst each other, and I don't know, I just feel, so my answer would be, the answer is yes, it has to be regulated through site plan approval, whether it's 5 or more, I I would have probably asked to see what other municipal units are doing with this.
So to your point, I've proposed that for now at least, we require them to be in a land lease community. So there'd be one owner,
Yep, yep.
as opposed to dividing them up and having, even through bare land condos, you still kind of don't have, you have multiple owners.
Right.
And I don't think we're mature enough in our thinking and understanding of these to dive in that deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so right now also, the way I've created this is that the actual tiny homes, the ones that are under the building code regs, would only be able to go in a land lease community. It could be in one of our existing mobile home parks or mini home parks, because they already know how to manage that kind of arrangement.
Right.
As opposed to having them show up on any little lot around town. So that was another question I wanted to bring forward to PAC. Do you want the little tiny homes, the ones that have the little sleeping loft and a ship ladder and stuff, to be allowed to go anywhere?
Absolutely not.
Or do we want to have them, at least for a starting point, in pocket neighborhoods or mini home parks?
I believe, and just my opinion I'll share, and we debated this last council, when we developed that, the tiny home policy. It just doesn't speak to the needs of the tax base to support the infrastructure. We just can't, in my mind, although there's a need for housing, you can't have somebody take a tiny home and put it on a 2-acre lot. Like, it's just, it does not serve the needs of the town for the cost of the infrastructure driven in front of it.
Yeah.
So that's my position on it. I know we've talked about it when we developed that policy, but if you wanna put 5 of them on a 1-acre lot, I'd be very happy to see. And I just throw the number 5 out, it's.
Right.
it's in our-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to come up with, right? Is the size of the lot,
Yeah.
the number of units to qualify.
Well, and I think there's an educational piece that needs to be shared about what actual, what are
Yeah.
pocket neighborhoods,
Well,
Westfall? This is new,
and what
right?
kind
Let's
of
have
homes?
that conversation. Let's figure out what they're all about, where they could be, what they would look like, how would our current citizens feel about pocket neighborhoods. There's a lot for us to learn and learn ourselves and also to be able to answer the questions and
Because there will be
educate.
questions.
Oh, there'd be lots of
Absolutely.
questions, yes.
And what-
And not all negatively, I don't mean that. I just mean in general, like if it's,
not-
yeah.
Was Sean not kinda advertising the 10 here as a pocket community, or was that kind of the initial discussion they were gonna
Yeah.
maybe?
No, I think they were saying
think
like,
they used the
we'll
term-
start with 10 and then,
Kind of, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Councilor McGregor, I think you're recalling it correctly.
Right.
In
Yeah.
their first iteration,
Right.
they did talk about a neighborhood, we'll build a neighborhood here.
Shared gazebo.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it, you know, it evolved as they understood the dynamics of the property they were looking at. Their thinking had to change to suit the reality. So they've shifted, and now what we've got is 10 modular homes being offered for sale at some point next year.
And then they did, I think, say that they were using that as a test to see,
Correct.
what the vacancy, the future, like, and if those 10 go fast, then they realize, which they will, because we had, a 0% occupancy? Like, there was no place else to go. So I feel that they'll probably be quite successful once it's
They could
done.
probably sell them today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or yesterday, or 2 years ago. But they will build from that, right?
So I think then, just, I don't think Mr. Day is asking you to pick a number tonight.
No.
Yeah.
What he is saying is, how do you want to regulate pocket neighborhoods? The number would all be stuff that goes into the land use bylaws, and that would be a regulation as
Yeah.
opposed to a strategy. So the question today, I think, is, do you see pocket neighborhoods as having a place in Westville? And if the answer to that is yes, the secondary question is, should there, at least in the short term, be oversight of that? And if that's the case, should that oversight be by site plan approval, development agreement?
Yes, and
Or
yes.
as of right,
Yeah.
All of the
As opposed
above.
to the other option,
Yeah.
right? And I think we've
Yeah.
heard from at least one of you that says, don't think as of right is quite right at this point. We don't have any experience with it. We don't know how it's gonna play out. So let's be a little more cautious. We can always go back and change, you can always go back in and change
Make an
land use
amendment.
bylaws and plans.
Can
As we
I
learn
pose this
more.
question?
We gotta learn more.
Can I pose this question with regard to as of right? If we had a clear definition of what qualified as a pocket neighborhood, if we had a very clear definition of what was included, what was necessary to be classified a pocket neighborhood, could it then not be an as of right?
My concern with that, there's probably a way to do it. So the short answer is yes, there would be a way to do it. My concern is that every different piece of land is going to be approached differently. Who they want to serve will be different.
Yeah.
How they're going to service it will be different. Where, like, there's so many variables that it would be really hard to create a framework that was tight enough to guard against what you don't want to see happen, but loose enough to allow creativity and adjustment to the individual circumstances.
The other thing I think that we're going to need is a clear definition of what a tiny home is.
Well, it's already done. It's in the building code. Yeah, so that part at
I
least is
think
written.
if that one item that's on the iceberg and under the water were to surface relatively soon, it would answer a lot of these questions, because as I understand it, this developer has a clear concept of this type of a development, a neighborhood development, a neighborhood, pocket neighborhood with utilizing tiny homes.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we'd have a real case scenario, I guess is what I'm saying, to help us come to understand what we require, what we should be looking at doing when we're presented with that by this developer. So I'm hoping that that rises to the level above the surface of the water soon. Be nice to have our thoughts together first, I agree, and know what we want to include in the strategy, right?
So are you looking for a motion tonight strictly to say that at this point, we're looking for some form of oversight to be determined for pocket neighborhoods?
Yes, I think that's fair
Yeah.
to say, that
Okay.
would be the sort of thing, the direction that we would need then to go on and
Yeah, and do the other,
fill out put more flesh on the bones of the concept.
yeah.
Is it not, is it just a piece of this though, is it not? Like the strategy itself, or are we getting into the regulation piece, I guess?
So it has to be written into this.
Yeah.
A lot of it is already in place, because if it's through development agreement, that is
Yeah.
a strategy item. What we would have policy that said, you know, in the R2 zone, for instance, shall be the intention of council to permit
Right.
pocket neighborhoods by site plan approval up to 4 units or 6 units or whatever. 4 is too small. It's not really a pocket neighborhood with only 4, but pick 6. And if it's more than that, it should be intention of council to go through this policy about development agreements for innovative developments.
I don't know that needs a motion for that. It's no different than anything else in here. It's just a general direction to go.
I just need direction.
Yeah,
I just
I
need
don't-
to know
I-
what the
It's
group is
included in
comfortable
the whole
There's
strategy.
other things in there
That's
that,
fine.
you know, we could
I feel we're going in
discussion
circles.
on too. but
Yeah.
this is-
I think we just need a motion from PAC to council recommending that we make that motion, basically.
Endorse the process.
Endorse the process to move
I move
forward.
to endorse the process to move forward.
I second it.
Excellent.
Motion's been moved and seconded.
That's finished.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
So, I mean, this is where the work is done for council. When it comes to council, it's pretty much, you know, council's represented on PAC, so.
Well, in that site plan approval process, like, I think it's nimble enough that it's not, you know, an administrative burden that's gonna scare people away, but protects the town enough that it gives oversight that, you know, you're not gonna end up with, I won't say it, but anyway, something that resembles cardboard or what have
Yeah.
you, and
That's
then,
right.
you know, just some of the stuff, just, yeah, and we don't wanna be the peacemakers amongst residents, and, yeah, I could see.
Exactly.
Well,
Don't
and
say
I think
cardboard.
it's
Cardboard
important,
makes me twitch. Don't say cardboard.
and once we get this, done and so on, it's important to let developers know that we're open, you know, we're encouraging people to come forward with these ideas.
Well, and, I think one of the good very good things about being a small community like Westville is, we are able to be nimble. And Mr. Day is fabulous at being nimble and getting back to people overall. And so, I think your point, Councilor McGregor, is a good one, that, you do want some oversight. You don't want to put in red tape, but there does need to be some oversight, particularly when you're exploring a whole new approach to community building. And you want to get it right, and you want to have your hands on the steering wheel when you're driving the car. And I think this is a pretty good compromise for proceeding, with alacrity, but not in abandon, basically.
One thing I might add, if I may, I'm not familiar, I haven't had a moment to look at it, I'm not familiar with your noise bylaw, and I think one of the concerns that people may have is that won't this just be an ongoing party of some sort? Now, that's not to say that anyone here couldn't have a party in their backyard any night of the summer, but this may lend itself to more social gathering, which it's intended, and, as long as the acoustic guitars are the only thing coming out, it's probably fine, but it could get louder. And so are we comfortable with the noise bylaw that we have and your ability to enforce it? So I'm putting that out as something council may want
I
to
think
look
that's
at.
another matter for council's gonna have to
Yep.
deal with relatively soon, is a review of the noise bylaw.
Well, I was just gonna say, we need to
Yeah.
get the review of the noise bylaw first, because we really don't know what that bylaw entails.
Yeah.
So we have to know what we're saying yes or no to.
I think it was just sent out recently, wasn't it?
11 o'clock.
I just wanted to say as well, the clarity has to be there, because this is not a concept that's very Canadian. And so my experience with these places is that they often have to have an agreement. People who buy these houses or come to them or rent them, however that gets worked out, it's not cooperative housing. So it's different than what we understand as cooperative housing. And my experience is actually they often have to have a social worker involved with them to negotiate the issues that come up in communal living, because we are not used to communal living. And so I think when we're saying there has to be something in place, I'm in agreement with that from previous experience I've had in a previous field of work, where this became very clear that you need to have somebody who says what is acceptable behavior in that area. So the noise bylaws, how you park, how the use of, who books the gazebo when. I mean, all of that seems very simple when we're talking about it, but it's very difficult because we're not a culture like that.
Right.
So I think it's key that we're very,
It's like campground.
yeah, so, and it may not be like that. In some places, it's more seniors. It could be a variety of things. But it is different from cooperative housing, where people sign an agreement understanding what cooperative housing means.
I think a case in point is the Cooperative Council, Nova Scotia Cooperative Council, the way they administer their properties that they have, and that we're hopefully going to have soon in Westville with the renovations of the school. They're very strict on those things. They take those things seriously, and they make residents, their tenants aware.
And they have the backup team to
that they have
handle
the
it.
backup.
That's the difference.
So,
Okay.
I was just thinking,
There's a social worker.
you mentioned campgrounds, and in Antigonish, Whiddon's Campground, which is substantial, is right in the middle of town.
Yes.
And generally speaking, I think everyone's totally okay with it being there. It's kind of cool that we have a campground in the middle of town. And generally, the campground does a very good job of being quite firm about noise requirements.
Well, they police it themselves, that's why.
They do,
Yeah.
they do. So we can learn something from,
Yes.
that approach.
This is how it is,
and
run
this
one.
is why.
Ah, cool.
No exception.
Just
Well,
one-
it's part of
one
the
quick
lease
comment
agreement. It's
on-
different.
Yeah, that's
on
right.
the existing noise bylaw, because we kind of went through it there, it was quite a while ago, I think it was over 4 years ago we talked about it, and we didn't do anything with it. But it does contemplate the closeness, because it talks about dwellings and units and contemplates apartment buildings in town. So I see like the existence of how it's worded right now, it does contemplate the closeness, and talks about different scenarios about property lines and about units and dwellings. So like, I think, in a general sense, I think that it would be appropriate, yeah, that's a good word, appropriate. The enforceability, that's a whole other dynamic that we have to talk about in council. But,
You need a good noise
It's
meter,
pretty
like
good.
if you're gonna do
Well,
it.
and, you know, truth be told, I don't believe the folks have them or are trained in how to use them. I know the RCMP and Antigonish, being the town was Saint of X, they're all trained in how to measure decibels at the end of the driveway. And
We
they
know
The
noise.
difference between instantaneous and, you know, so there's a whole lot to be fleshed out with that there. But definitely, if this is gonna be a new concept, we should at least take a look at it. But I think it does contemplate the closeness, just because we do have apartment buildings in town already.
The only other item that popped up in my mind, at least, was would some kind of a bonfire feature be permitted or not? And do we have enough control with regard to outdoor burning or something like that to manage it if we allow it? Because it's going to be something that they will want. Just everybody wants that. I have fires in my backyard.
I think that's all pretty much controlled by the Nova Scotia government,
provincial
bans and
thing.
stuff, right?
Well, there's
That's-
bans, but a lot of
yeah.
towns also have
Yeah.
like a,
Yeah.
you know, when you can have your own campfire or bonfire or whatever, and, you know, what hours, how big.
And what kind of structure you can have it in.
Right. So that's something I just wanted to toss out too. I don't know what the town has in that regard, if anything.
Nothing right now,
What-
but we
what-
did raise it once, right?
What I can say is we have a new council, but the last council, we discussed it and we were comfortable with the fact the province regulates what you can burn, when you can burn, and generally what you can burn it in.
Right.
And then the police have the ability to use I hate to use a strong word, the Criminal Code of Canada, but the Criminal Code, they have measures that if you are disturbing one's reasonable enjoyment of their own property, you know, they can deal with it outside the provisions of any kind of municipal bylaw. And I think we just left it at that, and left it at
That's
the
exactly
responsible neighbors, not contemplating them maybe being piled on top of one another quite as much as
Right.
some of these might be. That's probably not the right word, piled on top, but, you know, the closeness, the close proximity. Like, you can't have a bonfire in your balcony in an apartment building. Like,
It's a lot.
that's fire code.
No.
It's a whole other animal. But there might be a need to, you know, you have to be so far from, like, perhaps we need something that does talk about that when we get into that.
Our noise bylaw is the same across the province, isn't it? 11 o'clock at night, that's when you can call and complain.
We're 10.
Are we
West was 10?
I thought it was 11.
11.
I thought it was
I thought it was
province-wide
11, but, yeah.
That would over.
How does the town have a different time per town for every other place? That's just old.
Yeah.
Something else that's
How old
underneath
is
the
it,
rock
right?
that
Exactly.
came
How
out
old?
crawling. Like,
Well, when some of us were growing up, there used to be a whistle that sounded in town to tell you that you had to be, when if you're under 16,
Curfew.
you had to be home.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That was my
Funny.
mother.
That was a curfew, yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
curfew,
I remember that.
right, Mr. McKinnon?
That's right. That was a time frame when the police used to be patrolling on foot as well
Also sorry to hear that.
and get you.
75 decibels up till 10, and 10:01 PM it is 65. So it
Oh,
doesn't
well.
mean quiet time, it just means a little.
Lower.
Right, but
Solid.
11 o'clock is when you're allowed to complain, right?
So I just put up,
You complain before that, you gotta move to the country. Like
Right.
what?
right. I just put up a sketch of an example of a pocket neighborhood. So you see like communal gardens over on the left side. You see some buildings that would be used by everyone. For example, on the right, you see some parking. And it's just little walkways throughout the site.
Yeah.
So it actually is kind of bucolic. It looks lovely.
It would be wonderful.
It's much more enhanced than kind of any rendering we may have seen in the last couple of years for those. That's yes.
So hopefully that's the kind of thing that we will be entertaining.
Yep.
is when
Are those sea cans?
Those, I don't think so, no. They all have pitched roofs and some of them have little
They have
dormers and
bottom
things.
ones.
So
Nasty
they're-
word.
Yeah, it's just, they're not allowed.
Sea cans.
Sea cans is a nasty word.
You
Yeah,
can,
it is-
you
it has
can live in a sea can.
Yeah.
I know.
I didn't know that.
It's an auxiliary building.
Exactly.
So
They're ugly, unsightly.
Oh,
Okay, let's do that.
we can live in one, you just can't have one as a garage.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
all right,
I'm done with that now.
Yeah. Stop, Sarah.
moving on.
Stopping.
We've, in the updates, we pretty well covered the A and B part, unless there's something more on the Power Commission.
Oh, there is one other thing that I can say with regard to NS Power. So, a couple of meetings ago, I think I advised everybody that I had reached out to Nova Scotia Power about acquiring some rights of way.
Yes.
And I had used the term acquire when,
Yeah.
when I had been in conversation with them. They have, after several months, gotten back to us saying, we don't want to give up the rights of way. However, we are interested, or we would be interested in entering into easement discussions with the town. And so I have said yes
That's good.
to that, and that'll play out, you know, at Nova Scotia Power rates.
Right.
Right, so it'll be several months before I get back to you with any other little tidbit on it.
But it's in the right
But
direction.
it's, at least they didn't say, you know, go pound salt.
Right.
We still got a discussion underway, and we may be able to access some of those rights of way, and having an easement is a start.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, other than that, I don't think I have anything else on Nova Scotia Power to say.
All right, moving on, then it's into the long-term care center.
Yeah, and there's nothing there either, and frankly, I don't think, just for residents who might be still awake and watching, it is unlikely that we will have a syllable to say about that until into the new year somewhere, January, February, I don't know. But it'll be, you know, the government of Nova Scotia will has gone radio silent on this thing, as they should, in my view. You know, this is a very significant project, $50–60 million, whatever it is. And they're going through their due diligence process, and they are selecting from whatever number of applicants they got. And in the fullness of time, I'm entirely confident that they will say, you know, organization ABC has been identified as the successful applicant. And then stuff will start happening, because then we'll have discussions, we'll have somebody to talk to, and they will have decisions to make, such as where to put the thing, how big is it, how fast can services be provided, and all of that. So until sometime in the new year, we're gonna hear nothing, and we shouldn't hear anything.
Just to be clear on that as well, because I've been asked this a few times, because the groundbreaking was yesterday for the new Glen Haven in New Glasgow. And so the question was, well, you know, they knew who the operator was going to be, who was going to be building that and operating that for some time. Why are we waiting in Westville? Why do we have to wait so long to find out? Because it's a totally different process, because they're replacing the beds. That facility is meant to replace Glen Haven as it exists now. And the opportunity under that situation is that who's ever operating the facility at the time it closes and a new one is built to replace it has first dibs on doing it. They have first right of refusal. So in this case, Highcrest said, we want to be the operator of the new one, so they didn't have to go through that tendering process that we're going through here in Westville, that the province is going through on our behalf, for Westville, I should say, not that we're doing it. So I just wanted to be clear on that,
The
because
Auditor General for the province not very happy with that process right now either. They just kind of highlighted that 2 weeks ago. They
Right.
said that, although maybe in policy it is.
that may change.
So I don't think it's going to have
Yeah.
any bearing on Glen Haven.
No,
I don't think so.
no, but it could change, you're right, Counselor. But that's the way it exists now, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to point that out to people, because I have been asked that, you know, why is it taking so long to find out who's gonna operate Westville's new facility? That's the reason. It's a totally different process. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Shaw Drummond Compact Homes update.
Yeah, just look out the window. The excavator is there, and the fencing is up, and people are coming up to the town office window saying, you know, where do I get on the wait list? So, you know, as I understand it, over the next week or two, infrastructure work will be done, so that's putting in the water lines, the sewer lines. With Shaw is targeting the first 3 units, as I understand it, and this could change, but the first 3 units for early April of 2026, followed probably in May by another 3 or 4 units, followed by another three or four units the following month till they get to the 10. Yeah, where you get on the wait list, at this point, I don't know, but we'll figure that out, and make that available to people who ask.
Yeah. So for according Secretary Reed's benefit and others at the town office, it's not at the town office. We're not controlling the wait list. We're not taking applications for who wants to purchase one of those new homes. That would be Shaw Developments, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Unless they find someone that's going to manage that for them.
And they may be using stones,
Right.
I don't know,
Right.
but we'll ask that question of them and see how.
I think
things
it'd be
proceed.
valuable information to find out just how they want to proceed with that, so we can put it out to our residents and the general public in Pictou
Yeah.
County as well.
Yeah.
Here's what's happening, and here's how you get your name on the list if you're interested, right?
Okay. Main Street initiatives, pop-up market.
Yeah, so the gazebo should start going up in the middle of December, so 2 or 3 weeks from now, and should be completed before Christmas. That's our hope. I think tomorrow, as early as tomorrow, screw piles will be going in for the gazebo and to remove the ugly concrete Jersey barriers and replace it with bollards and kind of rope or something between the bollards. So
That'd be
that
nice.
should happen. I believe the screw piles are going in tomorrow if all works out well. So, there are things happening there, all in preparation for the next full season, right? So we're down to people there are down to being open on Sunday for a couple of hours if the weather is great.
Yeah.
And, we will not be clearing snow. If we get a big dump on Saturday night, the Public Works will not be clearing it for Sunday morning. This is the end of the season, and all the stuff we're doing now is in prep to have a more fabulous, more organized pop-up market next season, which really starts in mid to late May, to be honest, right? I mean, even early May is a little on the chilly side to be there, and there isn't enough traffic.
Yeah, and
to
it's not
warrant it
heated and all
kind
of those
thing.
things.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Can I
there
ask a
is
quick
work.
question? Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Have they, the vendors that are currently there, that have been there since the summer, have they spoken to you any further about wanting to do like one event over the holiday season?
Yeah,
Like
they're-
with the gazebo, so if the gazebo's in at Christmas and they wanted to do, let's say they ended up December 15th, I'm throwing a random number,
Right.
and there's not a ton of snow, and they wanted to decorate
Yes,
it up and make it.
They have and they will be. If
They have
assuming-
thrown that out there, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we did.
And we're supportive of that and planning for that. It really turns on the weather.
Right.
All
No,
I'm saying is,
100% the weather.
If it's a
Yes.
snowstorm, ain't
Yeah.
happening.
No.
If it's a sunny,
Yeah, we've
sunny
got a lot
Sunday
of
with
other
with 20
problems. Yeah.
centimeters of snow on Saturday.
Yeah.
Not happening either.
Right.
Because there's just too many moving parts to
Yeah.
make that work. But, yes, and so.
Thank you. I just wanted
several of them
clarity.
are gonna
Yeah.
be around. I believe they want to continue from this year into next year.
It's hard to grab.
But there will be units available for new vendors, new participants
Yeah.
in the spring.
Right. I mean, for $50 a month to be on the main street is pretty fantastic.
Well, then we've
And then
already-
have one of them has already
well,
moved
I was gonna
into the
say,
Rick Goodman building and
already
has
proven that it
started her
works.
own business there.
Yes, we've had
Yeah,
one
that's
of the
pretty
pop-up marketers to move into a permanent.
fantastic.
location
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So-
Mr. Chair, can I ask just a question to CAO just on that parking lot? It's an evolving thing, it's a new parking lot, this is gonna be our first winter with this public parking lot, similar to the parking lot at Katie Park and Megan's place. Is our intention to close that parking lot for the winter, or is it to be determined?
I think it's to be determined. The parking lot, part of it is, we've got an agreement with Lynn's to give them access for staff parking, let alone
Yes.
customer parking,
Yes.
right? So there's, but we're working that out.
Okay.
So I think it's too soon to
I'll
have
leave
kind of
that.
concluded all of that. The other thing I'll say is that in the next couple of days, a new structure will appear in that parking lot at the very back, and that is a structure that will house tables and chairs and other things associated with the pop-up market, so that we can put that together and, again, start to animate that area in the spring.
Yeah.
And there's lighting going in, that's the other thing. So there's also lighting going in around the units and the gazebo, and I think we've put a light at the back shining onto the parking lot, so that, it's got a little more,
Illumination.
thank you, a
Yeah.
little more light there, illumination. Yes.
Big word
So
for
I just
lit
have a
up.
question, and this may not be the appropriate place, but I have noticed, since the pop-up market has been there, that many more people are parking on the main street, all the way down past Acropole, in front of the driveways of other businesses.
Mm.
And so I'm just wondering if there's a way to have lines put there, or signage that says this is not parking here. I've seen that more than once recently, and I've actually had 3 businesses who now know I'm on this committee complain to me about it.
Actually, I had a call the other night that, from the hairdresser down there, and she's having the same issue, but that's the issue that she's been having for quite a while with you can't see the no parking signs to begin with, because I know that they're faced the way that they have to be legally, but it's very hard to see them, so the driveways are being blocked and stuff like that because of the excess traffic coming up the road.
Isn't it a given that you can't park in front of people's driveways?
Well, it
Like,
is, but
You would think.
you would think,
but-
you know, it's
But
not
what
gonna,
happens is people think I'm just going to run into
Right.
Acropole or Lynn's for 2 minutes.
just grabbing a slice and coming back
And it ends
out.
up being 20 minutes. And so for people, because they've arrived too early, so for people who have those businesses, what they've been saying to me is people are pulling in their customers and they're like, I can't get into my lot, or I can't even get into my own driveway, because the person's saying, I'm just gonna be out for 5 minutes. So you're right, in theory, you should not be parking in front of a driveway, but the reality is people do it thinking, I'm just gonna be in and out. So I'm hoping, if, this may not be the location for this discussion, but I've had 3 people approach me. So clearly it's an issue, and I've noticed it.
I've
when
actually,
been walking
yeah,
down
I've
there.
actually suggested to the lady that called me that maybe she should come on Monday night and speak to council about it at our public
good idea.
information session. Like, that's probably the way that she should go, because I'm sure we're talking about the same.
Do
Well,
we
she's
think?
one of the 3.
Yeah.
She's not the
Yeah.
only one who's.
No,
spoken
but
to
I'm
me.
talking, like I said, I'm saying that I told her that she should come and talk at council and,
So, do we believe that it's related to the change in parking at Lynn's?
I'm gonna be honest, myself, this is just my opinion, I don't believe so, because this complaint from there was from before, because I had brought it
Before.
up at council before,
Yeah.
probably 3,
That
4
was
months ago.
long-term, I think.
Yes, it's
Okay.
very
The others have
long-term,
been- Well,
so,
again, I don't know. They say it's been longer than Lynn's, but it's gotten worse.
yeah, see, I don't know if I think that, but that's just my
I mean,
opinion.
because there's better parking at Lynn's, except that it's probably not as noticeable to
Right.
people.
Well, they don't know it's
They
there
don't know
yet.
it's
It's
there.
new.
Yeah.
New, yeah. And the lines need to be drawn
To your
clearer.
comment,
Yeah.
Sean, they started to phase out common sense about 10 years ago.
But are our police not enabled to
Well, my
monitor?
understanding from one of the people who's not the same person we're talking about, they did ask the police to come, and by the time they came, it was like too late.
So, but they don't patrol, like they
They
don't,
don't patrol, they don't,
There's no foot,
there's no foot patrol, no one
There
who's.
used to be.
I think typically when it comes to the parking related offenses, it's in and around snow removal and things like that. is
Well,
what
that's
it
even,
is typically.
that's even an issue too, I think, that's not necessarily.
The 2 things that I do want to point out, since we're just on that topic of the parking, a few years ago, we did start painting yellow spots finally to delineate like very clearly, like you should know you can't park your bumper right on the crosswalk, that you have to be
so far.
4 meters, whatever it is,
Right.
on
Yeah.
either side of the Motor
Yeah.
Vehicle Act. And we've done that in some areas too, and I think we're gonna have to do it in some more areas.
Yeah.
I think it's time to refresh them. I don't think we repainted them this year. I don't think
That's right.
and I don't think there is a need to refresh them every year.
Yeah.
But I definitely think in the spring, obviously you're not gonna do it now.
Oh, yeah.
But the one that I am noticing, and it's more of a police commission thing too, I think, but just since we're on the topic, and it is a result of that pop-up, is where Diamond Street comes down
Yeah.
and Main Street is there, you're not allowed to legally park in that spot
Right.
on Diamond Street. That is literally parking in the intersection. It's the same as in front of Andre's Pizza in Stellarton at that three-way.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to park there, and there's people parking there all the time. And, I mean, you could put a no parking sign there, but it's inherently no parking under the Motor Vehicle
Right.
Act. And you see a lot, and I have seen vehicles actually have a hard time
Yes.
getting out and getting around. And I think some of that, it might be related to the pop-up, I don't know, because like you said, there's perfectly good parking.
There's trucks in that church parking lot that weren't there before, with the windows down and talking to each other.
Oh, yeah,
So I think
yeah.
that they just
They
shifted
just moved down.
northward. a bit.
Yeah.
Just went down
Yeah.
further,
Yeah.
that's all for that.
Yeah, but people are parking and running into Lynn's or running into wherever, or
Yeah.
just sitting in their car, literally parked in the middle of the
Yeah.
intersection, and not realize, because if you're just driving down Main Street heading towards Nebraska, you just pull over, there's a good spot on the curb. You don't realize that, actually, I'm literally in the middle of a T intersection.
Is it because there's no curb defining the intersection?
Well, no, there is,
is
because
curb
there's,
there.
because there's a crosswalk too, we moved the
Yeah,
crosswalk just
crosswalk
forward
there,
of
too.
it as
Yeah.
well, because the crosswalk used to be on the, well, I guess
But
this
most
side.
people don't see it as an intersection because it's a T.
Because it's a T.
As
Right.
opposed to an
Yeah.
X.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought, because Maxine brought that up, I was
Yeah,
like, oh,
it's
well,
just interesting when we think about the downtown and the flow.
Yeah.
But again, when people feel, businesses downtown feel that it's an issue, then I think we have to have some discussion about it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well,
Like
and if we're
they
making
really-
changes.
Like I said, they really, but they
Yeah.
should be coming and
Yeah.
speaking at council so that it is brought out in the public, like, you know what I mean, like,
Mhm.
their voice and what their complaint is.
I went to
so it
drive
can
out a
be
food
handled.
plan the other day, and there was
Yeah.
somebody parked right
Yes, I
at
know.
the exit.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Right, and there's also things that are common knowledge when you're from Westville and you're in Westville.
Right.
The way you pull into Foodland, the way you pull out of
You pull out,
Foodland,
right?
the way you leave the parking lot, and you know that because you've been here for a long time, and
Right.
that's the way it's done,
In one
and that's
side
the
and
way.
out the other.
But you come here and you're new to the community, you start pulling in the wrong way, things don't go well for you at Foodland, right? So you have to, we have to mark that, like, we have to make it.
When they were there.
We have to make it clear for people that we are very happy to have here and for newcomers and for everybody that this is kind of how it works. But we don't tell them and then get upset when
Yeah.
they don't know. So that's on us.
And
Yeah.
we're hoping there will be more development downtown.
Yeah.
On the main street, so it's only gonna increase the volume of traffic and activity and parking,
Right.
you know, we're very hopeful.
Spend some time in Antigonish and you'll see traffic and parking. It's,
Yes.
it's jammed all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
They decided to do all the
Oh my God,
construction
at
the
one
same
time,
Yes, and that's pretty horrible.
it was horrific the other night trying to get out of it.
The great thing is, as long as you're on foot or on a bike, none of it matters.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
True that.
sad.
Cars get so mad at me when I go by them on my bike, though. Oh my gosh, they think that I should have to sit in line behind them.
Then they had a water break in the middle of all of it last
Yes.
night, too.
Yes, yeah. It was horrific coming out there the other night.
All right. We'll go on to F, which is the sale of town lots.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot to say about that other
You
than.
have a lot to say about lots?
I don't have a lot to say about lots, other than, you know, as people are interested, and we see interest, we will, if it makes sense and the lot is not of a strategic nature, we would be happy to dispose of those in a, you know, planful, methodical way. So if somebody out there is interested in a specific town-owned lot, and there aren't all that many, just to be clear, not every vacant lot in town is owned by the town. And we don't own all those hundreds of acres that are out here that are owned by Pioneer Coal. That also isn't town property. But you know, if there are people who are interested in town-owned lots, then make your interest known and we'll react accordingly.
So are we able to actually get maybe a listing of the town-owned lots so that people would know? Or is that,
Yeah, we can do that. Yes.
Share that on our Facebook page.
well, that's what I was thinking, if we shared that on the Facebook page, maybe it might perk somebody's interest.
Yeah, could do that.
I don't know that they're, I guess, they're not all vetted yet though through the process, like.
No.
as
Yeah,
through
and-
all the people have to sign on.
Right, but we
Yeah.
must have some that are.
Well,
Just the town-owned ones.
yeah,
that
the
would be
challenge is,
Right.
and so I'll just remind
We
you
wanna
of
make
some of the,
sure.
some of the realities that we faced, right? You know, I have tried to sell more than one lot in town and had to back off. One, because, you know, somebody had the deed and never registered it, it popped
Right.
up. And so the reason I
sale, yeah.
don't, I'm reluctant to put out
Yeah.
the list is that every one of those lots, or not every one of them, my experience so far has been that many of those lots have ownership complications that take an inordinate amount of time, effort, and legal expenses to sort out. And so
It's a good way to
it's,
find out.
yeah, it's a good but
Hard way.
expensive, expensive and difficult way to find out.
We-
And so, you know, I'd prefer to do it, have people come in and ask about them so that, you know, I'm not handling all of that traffic at the same time.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
we've been marketing them sort of on a controlled way, simply
Correct.
because number one, they sell faster for some reason, because it's the only game in town, maybe it's the only lot that's available that someone's looking for. Rather than having 10, we've got one, and we have multiple bids on some of them. So I think there's part of that too.
There you
We've
go.
sort of been rolling them out over time, right? And once you've done your due diligence on them, and found out there's no creepy crawlies, as you referred to them, that you find.
There seems to be.
But to go to Councillor Dunn's point, we could have a list of, but knowing that there'd have to be some work done on each of them before we'd actually.
But that could be mentioned on the list.
I could develop a list of unvetted
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
properties.
right.
I mean, at least it would give somebody an idea as to,
Yes.
you know, what they may be interested in.
Well, and also make it clear that there would be an expectation that if they were to buy one of these lots, that they would have to build within a period of time.
Right.
And so you're not gonna get frivolous people, or quite so much in that.
The other thing I was gonna say on the, back to talking about lots that we own the pop-up market lot, which is prime downtown location.
And that's
now
in-
that we
and they're
have.
movable, right?
Now that we have space there, that we've demonstrated that retail works in this spot, I anticipate and believe that we will be getting overtures from individuals of an entrepreneurial nature that may want to look at acquiring that lot. So my point is, I guess you mentioned that the gazebo's going in, you mentioned that screw piles are going in. Screw piles, I understand, can go screw in and screw out relatively easily. I think most of the things that we have there are pretty portable, so.
They all are,
So we
yes.
have that advantage. So I guess what I'm saying is, we could have someone knocking on our door relatively soon,
It may pop
interested in
somewhere
that
else.
lot.
Right.
There you go.
All right. Any delegations or issues or discussion arising from business? Or is there any other business?
There may be. Max, did you want to speak briefly? Okay. Sure.
All right. Hearing none, then we could entertain a motion to go in camera.
So moved. We asked for that. He asked for that. The chair did ask for that, yeah.
I didn't hear that either.
No, he did. No, he did.
Oh.
We called for delegations or.
Yeah.
Do you have something you want to say, Claire?
Give her-
Go ahead.
Always.
Clary McKinnon, 2326 Count Street. 3 very quick questions. First, the Salvation Army thrift store. This is the second time that a demolition permit has been issued. One was issued before, and demolition didn't take place. So is it imminent this time?
Salvation Army.
It's always the thrift store.
No, he said what year?
There's only the one.
Year.
Okay, it's listed twice.
Okay, it may be in there. Okay.
It looks as
That's-
if it
that's an
was
error then.
done in May.
No, okay, so the application came in July. Any-
It says it was
there's
approved
only
before. Okay, but it is imminent because it's been talked about
Yes.
forever and it hasn't taken place.
I don't know that there's a stipulation of time of when they would have to do it. So it's probably dependent on when they need to get it out to enable the new development that's being worked on right now.
Okay. Second question, it says North Main mixed use. That actually is on Main Street, right?
The proposed
The-
development
Yeah,
that we're
the
talking
two or
about,
three landowners, where exactly is that?
it's close to our property. The one that has the pop-up village, that area.
Oh, okay. So it is Main Street, not North Main.
Is there a
And,
section of Maine that is only Maine, that isn't South Maine or North?
yeah,
Maine?
see, we actually have a Main Street. And I see this in report after report. I didn't want to raise this because it seems to be so picky, but we do have a Main Street. And it seems that from a staffing perspective, sometimes it's it's like North Main begins where South Main ends, and that's not the case. We have a Main Street.
We have North Main and South Main.
Yeah,
It's just totally confusing.
yeah. We have a Main Street in the town, then we have North, and we have South.
My question would be, why don't we have it Main Street? Why isn't it Main Street from when you come into town to you go out of town?
In my 80 years, minus a month and a bit, we have always referred to a Main Street in this town. My brother operated a pharmacy here for many, many years
Street,
on
Westville.
Main Street, Westville. The old bakery was Main Street. Everything was Main Street, and it still is. It's just we use that quite often. So you've answered that question.
So at the B, it turns to south.
South Main Street. Do you check by Town Street?
So does North
See.
Main end at Cowan?
Pardon?
Does North Main end at Cowan?
Basically, yes.
That from Cowan to Needs has always been
Main Street.
Main Street. And north begins
No,
on
yeah.
the north side of Cowan Street.
Yeah,
And
that's where it
South
starts.
Main begins on the
The
south
side of
side
Main
of All About You, right?
Yeah, right
But we
next
have
to-
that nice little Main Street, which is going to be a lot nicer, thanks to all the things that are happening. Third question, very quickly, don't want to take up too much time here. Third question is, how long is it going to take? Does anyone have any idea regarding the old high school on when an engineering firm is going to come
They are there
and
now.
check
They are
out
there
that
now.
steel?
I'll answer that one quickly.
They are there now.
Yes.
Thank God. Okay, thank you very much. I didn't hear the call for public input, so public engagement. Sorry about that.
I
Thank
think
you.
I think because on planning advisory, it's called delegations on issues as opposed to public engagement.
Maybe we should reword that.
So the chair did say delegations on issues.
Oh, delegation on issues?
Yes.
No delegation.
No, no.
It should just say public engagement, like we do at council probably.
Yeah, that's what I say, we may
Yeah.
have to change that wording.
Thank you for
Okay,
bringing
can
that
we
to
have
my
a
attention,
motion?
At least, I had no idea that that was the case. The numbering doesn't change, only the name.
Yeah.
Motion been moved and seconded, all in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried.
Actually, Scott has used that.
I'm gonna hand that off, and I'm gonna.
And every time it comes up, I should.
So